Alright, I just got these ditch light brackets from ECS, and these just came out, so I was just going to do a quick install video on the E70 since nobody has these yet. So let's get to it. Okay. So definitely a little notch right there. Go in here kind of like that. So the biggest thing is going to be doing this without messing up the hood alignment. Both bolts come off. Super simple. Alright. Bracket up there. And bolts go right back on. Get a little closer on this side so you can see. Alright, bracket, ECS logo, face the window. Make sure you wrap it around the hood. And then bolt right back up. There's a little bit of play in this thing, so pushing it out so it's all the way seated. Just pull out of here. Careful when closing the hood just to make sure it's still lined up properly. Good enough. Alright, a little close up of the brackets. They are very nice and low profile. You can barely even see them, obviously, with no lights on them. And then part two of this project. So I got these little lights here. Auxbeam, kind of shitters, but whatever. I just thought they would look good since they are very low profile, just for a little bit of ditch lighting, obviously. Set that guy up there. Alright, those should look pretty mint. Alright, we're back. Did have to make a quick trip to the hardware store. These are the bolts they included, which hit the hood, so I just went and got some shorter ones. Alright, so let's get these brackets off of here completely. And then we will get these things mounted up on the hood. I really wish they made these holes here the actual size of the nut, because as you can see, kinda, the nut just spins in there, which is not the best design, but for $100 lights, can't complain. Which way does this even go? Alright. Bracket holes are also a teeny bit too small, so I'm just gonna go on ahead and get this bolt through there. Alright, there is both of our ditch lights installed. They look pretty solid. That's the main reason I went with these, is honestly they're just very small. Looks pretty good on that bracket. I just wanted something nice and low profile that'll just give a little bit more side light. Not that's done. Oh, the other thing, they come with these little covers that clip onto the lights for amber if you want. I think these will be pretty nice. Guess we'll see how they work later once it gets dark out. Which is the switch panel. Actually wiring these things in. I'm sure everybody knows what this is. Everybody uses these now. It's pretty cool. It just uses this little box with some nice solid state relays in it. 1,000 times better than anything else. Comes a nice little breaker. And then I think I'm going to mount this up on the ceiling. So I went with the 6 switch. Nice little flat one. Okay, let's see if this lens is small enough for this. Alright, so I haven't fully decided yet. Like right here up on the ceiling, or I was even thinking about like right here above the mirror would be cool. I don't think right here is going to be the move, so it has a nice solid base on it to push against. See, get some more light in there. There we go. Alright, so we'll figure it out. Alright, so with the controller, get this big braided cable, which I got right here. Alright, so what I did is I just pushed it out through the headliner here. Eventually, I'll come through and tuck it up all the way down, and then we'll go down the A-pillar. But just so you can see that. And then here is the switch panel. Focus. Here's the switch panel. Right on here, just with the included, not 3M tape, but gel tape, I guess. So, we're down here now. A lot of E70 guys have issues running things to the firewall because there is really no space up here to do so. So what I'm going to do so I don't have to put a giant hole is I took the connector apart. I did put some orange markings on there so I know how everything goes back together. And I'm just gonna use a piece of wire. And then up here, you can see this. This is where the harness comes through. So these little holes right here, so I did in my truck as well. These little holes just go to nothing right under the brake booster. So I poked a little hole in there, took some wire, and we'll see if we can pull it through. That guy comes out right up in the side of this. You can't probably see it, but there's a little teeny hole right there from where I poked it in. So that'll come out under this tray that was right here. And then still gotta decide where to mount the controller. I'm kind of thinking about like right up in this area somewhere, maybe over here. Then I'm just gonna connect it to the battery power and the ground we got over there. All right, so now you can see up there. Focus. All right, now you can see up there. I'm on my phone, can't fit the camera down here, but I was able just to kind of, let's see if we can get an angle on this. I was kind of able to shove a little bit up there. Ream that hole out a little bit. Okay, and then we got wire here. There's the connector. And we'll be able to, if I can get it. So, just got that through the firewall. And obviously I took the connector off, so I'm just gonna put some new heat shrink on it to keep this connector nice. It's red instead of black, but whatever. All right, good enough. There's our connector. with, oh, so this is not all of the slack. There's still probably another couple feet, which will be plenty. We got the controller, switching back to the phone here. Okay, so obviously this box needs to mount somewhere. Ideally, I'd like to have it out here somewhere, but that just is not gonna work with the limited engine bay space, but there's tons of it down here. So I'm kind of thinking these 2 bolts for the hood might be a good mounting point with some sheet metal. Do a little something like kind of mount it up right there like that, or some kind of like that. So I'm gonna cut up, I got this random tractor silence, just some thin sheet metal, so I'm gonna cut this up and make a little bracket. All right, this is the super hack method, but it'll do for what we need. So I just cut this little piece of sheet metal out of that triangle. It's not gonna be the strongest thing in the world, but and that's gonna be our first bracket. Looks like absolute shit, but once this thing's mounted up, you will never see it. So the bracket on the other side is pretty bouncy. I didn't even think about it because I'm obviously just cutting out a very thin sheet metal, but this is the other side, so I just put some bends in the side, you know, stiffen it up a little bit, made it way stronger. So I'm gonna get this in there, test fit, just make sure both the brackets look good and fit good. And then we will get some paint on here so it doesn't look like shit and it doesn't rust. And then we will get the controller mounted. Got our brackets drying up. So this guy, again, is gonna mount right down in there to the hood strut bolt, and then one of the hood bracket bolts right there. But it's winter in Wisconsin and it's freezing, so time to call it a night. It's the next morning. Haven't really done anything except mounting this little fuse. I guess not little, 60 amp fuse right there. Just went right to the jump point. Slap that under there. And I just cut out the side of it so it can still close. It's not the thinnest cut, but it just broke. So just cut that right there so it can still close. And then probably just gonna run the ground right here to the jump point ground as well. These are brackets painted up. They look like shit, but I left them outside and painted them outside and it was 40 degrees. But you're really never gonna see these. I just don't want to be rusty metal. So get these thrown back in and then be able to mount the controller, hook up power in the ground, and then hook up the lights. Extra light in here, but this little guy goes back here, and then the big paddle one using the bolt that connects the strut holder. Bracket, and then the other one's kind of blocked, but get the gist of it. So I just, the negative went to the jump terminal. I just went right around the rain tray under the fender on the plastic, and then we're gonna do the same thing with this positive that goes to the relay block on the front. That's good and tight. Set that down for a sec. Get all this pulled through. And then brackets are still loose, so we can hook this guy up. Sick. Double sick. Okay. You can get the gist of what's going on in there. Just a pretty simple bracket. Power's hooked up, ground's hooked up, and then it all runs right back here around the rain tray through the plastic fender like support thing. And it looks pretty clean. Once the rain tray's in, it'll be totally hidden. Alright, so we got relay, power hooked up right there, ground there. It all runs back through the fender well in between the two foam pieces of the rain tray. There is our controller mounted up. Oh, I think my light's dying. Mounted up. Okay. Now let's hook up the battery and see if it starts on fire. So here is where things get annoying. Gotta run this red wire on the Auxbeam controller to an accessory. So if you put this straight to power, it'll just have power all the time, kill the battery. And of course there is nowhere good to hook up to. So we're gonna go to the angel eyes, I think, which means we gotta pull the wheel off, take the wheel well out, and then we can get access to the back of the headlight and find a wire that is powered with the accessory. Alright, jumping back to my phone here quick. So we got the fender mostly out. We really just need access to that plug right there. These are a pain in the ass to get to, but you can just take it out like halfway. You don't gotta pull it the whole way out, and yeah, good enough to get in there. So when you take off your headlight, I just made this little whatever. Just filed down some wire. I'm not gonna be able to show you this with one hand, but the little black wire in the corner right here, which is pin number 1, is going to be the halos. So that is key on or ignition on only. So we're gonna tap into that black wire there with the accessory for the Auxbeam controller and get it all buttoned back up. Just use the power tap going into that DRL light. So DRLs are off, controller is off, and bang. Turns on with the running lights. Controller's all done. And now we get to the fun part. Wiring in the actual lights. Well, step 1 here should be pretty simple. Plug them in. Just kind of let them sit underneath the cabin filter and all this stuff. There's really not a lot of slack here. Obviously we're not going to use the relays or any of this stuff that comes with the kit because we have the controller. We're just going to cut this right before the relays. Just cut all the wires off. Don't need any of that. All we need is this guy. Then we're going to have 3 wires. Obviously ground, power, and I'm assuming this is for the little daytime running light function on these, but I'm gonna go grab my jump pack and we're gonna test it out first. Super basic testing method. I just have a jump pack. That's the black wire. The red and the white is what we're trying to figure out what does what. So we're gonna turn this on. We touch the white, it should be the running lights. Yeah, see the orange. And the red should be actual light. So, everything is all wired in now, theoretically. Let's see if it works. Hell yeah, baby. All in a good 2 days work. Install is done. Really wasn't that hard, it was just tedious. I mean, it took me probably a solid 12 to 15 hours just to do everything. Ditch light brackets, the lights, and then the lighting controller obviously is the hardest thing. But it looks clean, it's factory, it all works. Yeah, and then once it gets actually dark outside, we'll go adjust the lights and see what they look like. You know, that's the only thing you can see in the engine bay. I probably could put that somewhere else. I was thinking about doing it in there, but it's nice to have easy access to it. Yeah, and then the controller, you can only see the side of it right there. But, yeah, it's, I think probably about the best it's gonna get as far as a hidden install goes. So, that's that. Alright, it's dark now. We got the field behind us, so let's test out the lights. So that's low beams. There's the high beams. There's fog lights with the high beams. And then the ditch lights. Still not adjusted perfectly, but they definitely space out the area between the high beams nicely, and we'll get some shots of them on the road at some point. Alright, and then with the yellow light colors, I don't even know if you can hear me, but these are pretty cool. Change them over to yellow. Alright, so from the driver's compartment, the lights, you can't even see that one, but this one, I mean, they really don't add like too much. I guess if this is where your head was when you were driving, again, is why I went with the Auxbeam ones, just because of how small they are. Okay, again, that's what the bright's on. That's what the bright's off, so you can see it fills in the outsides of that pattern nicely. And now my fog lights are pretty much useless, but that was the point. Alright, so from the cockpit, driving with them, you want to shut them off quick? Back on. Oh, look at that, the whole point of them. There's a little bunny running across. Alright, mint.